Westworld Season 3, Episode 3. It's Westworld outside of Westworld. Here we go.
Welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. We post 3 videos a week, so subscribe to stay updated and find all of our links at asart.space. We're going through all the Westworld episodes, breaking them down as soon as we watch them, so we're going to get into it. First off, do you think Serac is the computer system, the main hub?
You mean Serac? I think it's Serac. I don't think it's Serac. It might be. I'm not sure. Yeah, we're gonna butcher some names for sure.
Do you think he is the computer? Because every time we see him, it's in digital form.
He's a simulation. So I didn't even think about that, but now that you said that, now I'm thinking that, because yeah, you're right. You have to wear the glasses to see him. He's just an anonymous being, which they're like, how to, and they hint in the episode. They're like, how would you do that? Like, how would you be that? Like, you're not even in existence. So Nick calling that out.
Too. There's also no record of this buyer, this owner in Delos. There's nothing of him and all that stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. And the last time, I mean, we did see him with Maeve near the end of episode 1, but she might have been in a simulation at the time. So we can't tell. Yeah. So that's a good theory, because we'll have to see if he's showing more, if people always have to have glasses on. Yeah. Interesting. I like that.
But then again, even if it is, I wonder if he can transport his memory into a host. Just like how all these other hosts are being.
So I'll be curious to see if they go the route of him having similar technology to what they had in Westworld, or if it's a different type of technology. Yeah, that'll be very interesting. Yeah.
Just saying. You called it here first.
Yeah, you did. Wow, cool. That's a good call. So how are you liking the guy that's acting? So I think it's Vincent Cassel, I think is how you say his last name. I've known him from French films that I've seen. I really like him as an actor, but I'm curious to hear your take.
I don't know. I mean, he's only been on screen for 4 minutes at this point.
For this particular, I mean, he was on screen a little bit more in the first episode, right?
It was a joke. It was just a joke because we don't see him as
much.
What
a jerk. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm guessing probably we're going to see him more as the seasons are going along. But I really like your theory so far about him not being a real entity. I like that a lot. So I'm curious to get your take. So Nick and I haven't talked at all about this episode before. Nope. Usually we discuss some points, but we really wanted to get raw here. So how do you think? So not over just the overall episode, but so you and I have been concerned about Dolores and how she was going to be presented in this third season. What do you think about her character so far? And not just her character, but her interactions, things like that. Because I have some thoughts on it, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I feel like she's Agent Smith, and May's gonna be Neo, and then this godlike creature is gonna be the main AI character, and then
the architect
sacrifice themselves is gonna be a hack. It's the Matrix all over again.
Well, it's funny. So if you guys didn't stick around, so Nick pointed out last week there was a really cool making of for episode 2, and I went back and watched that. And then so for episode 3, I made sure to watch, and I forgot his last name's Nolan. I forgot his first name, but he's
Jonathan Nolan.
It's not Jonathan Nolan. Yeah, he was saying, he's like, yeah, this is basically the Matrix, but it's a different version of the Matrix. Instead of having Zion where the machines have taken over, it's just more of like an overlay of control to where your life is being dictated through the options that are presented to you. And it's really cool. Like, I really like this idea. And Nick asked me the only question before we got on here is like, so how did you like the episode? I'm like, I actually really liked it because they've made a Westworld outside of Westworld, because in Westworld, your programming and options were already dictated for you. You had a little bit of flexibility within those parameters, but not much. And now we're finding out that in the real world, this AI system and the people that run it are basically creating or eliminating options for you based on its projected theories of what you're going to react. And it sounds, from what they're doing, it's very, very, very accurate. And so it's like, you basically in the real world don't have free will either. And I thought that was just a great way, because my main concern, if they continue to stay outside of Westworld, it's like, okay, well, one, the Western theme either way is kind of gone if they stay out there, and that's already a problem. But not having that theme of Westworld and control was going to be a big issue. But now we're finding out, okay, like the real world has that too. And it does create a significant link between, what's his name, Caleb and Dolores.
Yes.
And and I really like that dynamic. I was really worried about how Dolores was going to be depicted, and she still has that cool, calm and collected kind of acting that I don't really like. But she's more of like almost like an auxiliary player. She's the manipulator on the chessboard, almost like Anthony Hopkins' character was, instead of her being like a main direct player, which I think is really, really cool.
Do you think Riot, the app, the app on the phone that he gets his money from and stuff like that, do you think it's also controlled by the main brain or the main computer system?
Well, I mean, that was the biggest thing that just didn't make sense to me, is in a world where it seems like everything's being monitored, there's this app on a regular consumer phone that just supposedly isolated. And even in the behind the scenes from episode 1, they said, oh yeah, it makes sense. There's this program that's isolated on the phone where you can't be tracked. I'm like, well, no, if it's a consumer thing and they're so good at monitoring, you would think. So at the very least, it seems like something that could be utilized by.
Yeah, but I mean, it can have the illusion that it's not on the grid, but it's still on the same grid kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just thought it was so weird that it notified him that he was wanted.
Did it notify him, or did it? Yeah, I thought it was just an open call, like, hey, this is a big contract out there right now, or something.
You would think an app would have logins or whatever if he clicks it, and he also gets paid. You don't think they would have notified the guy that had to run or that they were after? Like, that made no sense to me. Like, right when I saw that, I'm like, oh, maybe someone is controlling this that's also controlling the system, kind of thing. So,
or then again, maybe it's supposed to be anonymous, like who you are in that app, and so he just happened to get an update on it. I don't know, but I mean, he didn't go looking for jobs; it just popped up on his screen. So either it was an editorial thing just to let the audience know that he's being looked for, or you're right, it's something else going on in the system.
But like, because he got notified that the cops were there for the job, like the cops were paid.
True.
Like, but it just seemed like something's pushing this story along. Like,
I feel like he looked on his phone for that, didn't he, or no? Or did that just pop up as well?
I think he looked at it when the cops pulled up, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think he was like, "That's weird. We're getting pulled over," and I think he looked on his phone and found out that this is like a job that's posted, or maybe not. But there's definitely some leeway and directions they could take it.
But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. And then like the whole monitoring, they know every movement, every thought, and all that. Well, not everything, I guess. I guess there were some things that they didn't get, but I don't know. But
well, that's my favorite part of this. Well, one, I really like, Jesse Pinkman, Breaking Bad, Caleb in this series. I really like his acting. He has like a vulnerability kind of to him, and they did a really good job of, without having these huge expositions on his backstory. Oh, and then they talked about it in the making of. They wanted it to be kind of like It's a Wonderful Life or a Christmas Carol, where it's almost like Scrooge is being shown all the decisions in his life, and that's how Jonathan Nolan had described it. I thought that was really cool, because I didn't think about it. She's like, let me take you to breakfast, and here's where you come every year because of this, and then you find out why, and then this is the bridge you always go to, and this is where it's projected you're going to commit suicide. I thought that was really cool, and I wouldn't have made that connection, but I love that they're freely admitting and making known, like, these are the things we're drawing inspiration from. I really like that, and that's really, really cool. But
it's very inspiring to younger filmmakers too, to know this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because some people feel like it has to be an original idea in order for it to be valid, but there's not really many original ideas, or there's original ideas, but they're borrowing and choosing from other things, and that's why you have, I didn't go to film school, but a lot of my friends and coworkers that I had went to film school, and they're like, yeah, like, this is required reading, or this is required watching. You have to like study these things because they're significant. So I really like.
I kind of wish they did that on The Witcher. I feel like that would have helped me with the lore a little bit more too, like breakdown of what's really happening and how things work. They do like HBO after the show things where they break down shots and story plots. I feel like that would have really helped out with The Witcher, because then they could be explaining like the background, because like there's some things we just don't get, right? Like, we don't know about different characters and stuff like that, and it's just like, oh, like, it'd be nice to have a little bit of backstory.
Yes, a lot of the backstory, and sorry, we're not going to make this a Witcher thing. We're just doing brief things, but
toss a coin
in the Witcher series, ding, but in the series, the Netflix series, they would say like one sentence, and that would encompass an entire section of like one of the games, and I'm assuming the books as well. So it's like, okay, unless you're paying attention to every single thing and you really think into it, you're missing huge things about the backstory. And you're right. So that's the thing that just Netflix doesn't do, right? Versus HBO. HBO does the behind the scenes. And I love those. They're shorter here, but in Game of Thrones, it seemed like they were a lot longer. And I really enjoyed that as much as the episodes, like why they made the decisions that they made. And so I'm hoping that that'll be more of a common thing. Maybe on Blu-rays and DVDs, if you buy them, you get better stuff, but
maybe.
I don't know.
So what do you think? 1 out of 5 stars. This episode.
Yeah, I was really worried about it was going down. I know viewership has been going down, but that doesn't mean that the quality is, always going down, even though I've felt season 3 has been a somewhat rocky road. Like this one I really liked. I'd say this is like a 4.5 for me. Like I liked it,
dang,
but that
nice.
maybe is
like
because I didn't have really high expectations for it because things started to get weird as we were going along. But yeah, I'm interested to see how these characters go. Dolores is still Dolores, but she's more of a manipulator, almost like an architect instead of just this emotionless character. And then we're getting a good, what's the other girl's name?
Charlotte.
So they created a new version of her body, but whoever, and they haven't revealed who's in there yet. I'm assuming it's the cowboy guy, right? What's his name? Dolores.
Oh, that's good. You think it's
Boy, we forget
Teddy.
quick.
Ted.
Teddy. Yes, yeah, Teddy. I feel like it's Teddy because they have this emotional attachment. He was always more of an emotional guy before she had changed his coding. And it would make sense for it to be a more dynamic relationship because she didn't really have any. She's like, you belong to me. And there was no other relationship she had like that other than, him in that series, or maybe her dad. But he wasn't one of the brains I think she took with him.
Yeah, I'm curious what brain she took now. Because they keep kind of like teasing that. But I think the owner's name is Charlotte.
Charlotte. Yes, that's her name, Charlotte. Yeah. So what I was a little bit confused with is the person or the android, whatever, that's kind of over her body right now. It's like, if it's not really her body, why do they feel like she's trying to take back over and she carved open her skin and stuff? Yeah, but I mean, they implanted her memories though. So it's not like they took her original body, because you saw her, the new Charlotte kill the real Charlotte.
They might have transferred some memories over, maybe
from
like
Westworld
merging,
archives
so
or whatever.
she can play the character, or like, so she has a backstory. So it's not like she's going in without no information.
But it seems like she's going without a lot of memories.
Yeah,
but
kind of, right. It's weird. It's like
yeah,
maybe both of the memories are kind of morphing. Like maybe Dolores' dad. Remember how he was going through? He's jumping through different characters.
Yeah. But I liked that idea of that there's a conflict going on, and the reason I think it's Teddy is he was always more of a protective type character, and
compassionate.
Charlotte seems very protective over, even though doesn't completely remember the daughter, didn't remember the daughter at all, still very protective. And I'm curious to see if there's going to be that, because he committed suicide in the second season. I'm curious if this is almost going to be the same thing. So he, the mom can have Charlotte's can have her daughter back or whatever. It's going to be very interesting to see how that, again, this is assuming it's Teddy. Obviously I don't know that. It seems like they're dropping enough hints, but sometimes, they intentionally mislead you so they can bring you back to something else. So it'll be interesting to see. The big thing we haven't seen yet is the Man in Black. Where is Ed Harris? I'm so curious. Think so?
Oh yeah.
Did you look?
That's what it showed in the previews.
Oh, I didn't watch the preview for the next episode. Cool. Okay. So he's still, along with Anthony Hopkins. I can't get away. I'm just biased because I love those actors. I can't wait to see how Ed Harris is going to be back in this. So you know what? It's a bummer because episode 1 and episode 1 especially started off really rocky. I think they lost a lot of viewership. And then they lost a lot of viewership after episode 2 as well. So I don't know if it's just on a downward. And you would think, especially with people home right now, that it would be getting more viewership.
Maybe it will. Maybe people are starting to watch the show too. Maybe everything's going up everywhere.
Yeah, but I'm very interested to see what's going to happen now. Like at episode 1, I was like, oh no, like, this is, but sometimes stories need a while to get started. So this is really, and they're still introducing characters and like, arcs and stuff. So,
So one thing I want to talk about visual effects wise is I don't like the way the robots move. The 3D robots. It just, because we see human-like robots that are actually just humans playing robots, and they move so human-like where when you see a robot, it just feels way off. Like it's just like way off.
Well, And we talked about that in episode 2, right? Or was that at the end of episode 1 where
maybe
Maeve was trying to break out?
Yeah.
So my assumptions on that. So I had said I didn't like it as much, and I think it's fair to not like it as much. But these are more utility robots. They're doing jobs. They're not trying to mimic humans. So maybe they're not meant. That's not their function or the creation purpose. So I guess it makes sense in that like that. His Caleb's robot was like a construction robot. So he's not meant to move the same way and things like that.
What was the thing in his mouth? Was that like a computer chip in his body? Is he like a cyborg?
Well, I think so. They said military, so I think that's a military installation. So if you're under extreme duress, I think they can control your heart rate, so you're not going to freak out. Or if you need to amp up your aggression and things like that, they can regulate it. So I feel like it was almost like an enhancement thing, and they just like kind of cracked it so they can control it. But that Dolores hasn't mentioned that yet, but I feel like that's almost like a similarity between their characters as well. It's like, okay, he has some type of augmentation. It's almost like cyberpunk stuff. It's like it's an augmentation that he has and it was just a cool concept too. They didn't linger on it a whole lot. It's almost like just character or like world building stuff. It's like, okay, here's this. It could just be an excuse so they can ramp up the kind of situation. But I was like, I thought that was really cool. It's like, military technology, boom, and then they're able to control his heart rate, stuff like that. Oh, that's cool. That's interesting. Because I have a lot of friends that have been in the military. It's like, yeah, they give us pills and like, what's this? They're like, just take it. They tell you, they just see how it affects you, and it's like, okay, that's just like an advanced form of that. So it's very interesting. Yeah. What's that?
They're all test dummies for shots and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's scary stuff. And it's like, I know a lot of friends that have done that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting piece of technology. So the world building has been very fun so far, even though I was a little bit suspicious and not skeptical if it was going to work or not. So do you have any hesitations, or are you mostly on board at this point?
I'm mostly on board. I felt like it was a little slower pacing, which is fine. It's not like a bad thing to be slower pacing, but I liked it because it was more kind of developing Caleb, a new character that I'm interested in, and and it was fun to kind of focus. I really missed Bernard, though. I think I like Bernard a lot, his character. I like Maeve's character a lot. So I was kind of bummed to not have him in this episode. And it looks like they're flip-flopping with the two. So
that's what I was going to ask you about too. So do you think there's a reason they kind of switched to that format? I mean, obviously they're introducing more and more characters. That makes it more difficult. But I mean, we're going to go 4 episodes before we get any of the Man in Black of William, or right? Before we get any information on him. And I'm assuming, how many episodes do we have in a season? 10?
Well, it's weird because I feel like they're starting to mess with time again.
Oh, you think so?
Because think about it, like when we see, she still had, it looked like Bernard's, because she only brought 5 memory things and she had 4 minds on the table. So it looks like she didn't even make Bernard yet. So it looks like maybe Teddy was the first character that was in Charlotte, and then she made Bernard. So you know what I mean? So I don't know. And then Bernard's already there and back. He's already on his way back from Westworld. So it just feels like the time's a little bit all over the place again, kind of thing. So,
which I don't know if I'm a fan of that or not. For season 1, that worked wonderfully because it had that big reveal of William is the Man in Black, and that was still like the coolest reveal, I think, of the series that they've done so far. And but I think Caleb has some great potential, and Bernard's still going through this journey. There's some really, really cool stuff that could happen.
The thing about Bernard I was thinking about, do you think Bernard is like under Dolores' mind control?
Well, that's what they've hinted at very strongly in episode 2. And he was trying to find that out. And he found that there was things that she had messed with, right? But he wasn't able to finish his diagnostics before they had to get out of there. So the assumption at that point from a storytelling standpoint would be like, okay, there's still some stuff in there. He just has more of a hunch on what's going on. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you would have to maybe not full control, but there's certain things that he doesn't know that maybe he should know.
Yeah, so no one's story's planned out except for Stubbs, because we know he's programmed to protect.
But you know what? I'm glad they brought him back. I did like his character, and they did kind of very subtly hint in season 2 that he might have, been a creation from the get-go.
Yeah. He reminds me a lot of Matt Damon.
Yeah, he does kind of a little bit. Yeah, especially like the Bourne movies. He kind of has that vibe a little bit. Really, really fun, you guys. Hopefully, if you've been following along with the series, you're kind of getting more kind of back into it if you were like us and kind of starting out the season a little bit skeptically. If it keeps going like this, I'm hoping that the season is going to continue. After when we started the season, I'm like, you know what? It'd be nice to wrap it out. This might be a good last season. But if they're able to keep it going with good ideas, then awesome. So you guys, so check out AsArt.space. We have all the audio and video podcast posted there as well as other things. We're going to be continuing this series all through Westworld Season 3. We're taking a look at Harry Potter visual effects breakdowns for the entire series and a lot of other stuff. So check in on everything. I'll see you on the next AsArt.